All right. Yep.
Yeah.
Go for it.
So hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. Great to be here, finally in person again. So who was here 2019? Let's leave it lighter. Who was here 2019? Yeah, a few people. 2020? Last year, nobody, of course. And thanks to all of you who are here today. Applause for yourself, and thanks a lot, folks. I also appreciate it that you're still here for last talk and for the after party. So today, we're talking about petite-vue, progressively enhancing every application. So some of you might know me. To those who don't, I'm Alex. Wow, that's big. I'm a web development consultant and speaker and instructor, as it seems, right? So I'm also an Next.js maintainer. And I'm on Twitter. I post every now and then. I have a website and GitHub. So yeah, if you have a question, then feel just free to, well, contact me, shoot me a message, and all good. So when we use Vue, all of you use Vue, I guess. Then most of you, I guess, will also develop single-page applications. Who of you uses Vue to develop single-page applications? OK, it's roughly all of you. Cool, great. But the thing is, and now it's a question for you, what percentage of all websites are SPAs? Think of a number, like what percentage, I don't know, 100, 0, something in between. And I count you in, and you have to tell me. Like, I want to hear the answers. OK, in 3, 2, 1. Oh, yeah, good guesses so far. The answer is, though, we don't know. Nobody knows. But what we know is, actually, that there are like roughly 15% of all websites that use a modern JavaScript framework. So I'll count a couple of theirs in. Sources, Web Almanac 2021. Very good source, so thanks for the people who are creating that. So yeah, Vue, JSWORLD, React, and so on, so on. But it's not like 15% SPAs. Not all of these sites are SPAs. I bet most of them aren't. So yeah, we don't know that. But what we know is we love writing Vue applications, right? We all do. But we don't always have a green field, right, for our beloved stack. Maya talked about that yesterday. So, well, most projects that are out there aren't even SPAs, right? OK, fair, fair. So maybe use like a JAMstack. Maybe they're like traditional server-rendered Java monoliths. I don't know. It's fine. Totally good. But then maybe people come in and say, hey, we maybe want to migrate to an SPA. It's the new hot thing. New, right? But oftentimes, like, no, we can't do that. And reasons are manifold. Not enough time, budget, I guess you all know that, right? Too much domain knowledge, actually. Oh, yeah, it's such a huge code base. Yeah, so many assumptions. Not enough experience, maybe also in writing modern SPAs and like working with the new frameworks. But all these applications still need interactivity. Users want to interact with these things. And ideally, they have a modern approach. And still support devices with no JavaScript as well. With an SPA, it's tricky. Yeah, server-side rendering, but you need to put on lots of effort. For like server render, traditionally server applications, it's not that big of a deal. So this is called, oh well. First, of course, the questions, why, how, and when. Why? Told you. How? We'll see. And when? Ideally now, or yesterday, but maybe in a few weeks or years. So this is called progressive enhancement. It's like a design philosophy that basically says, look, every user should get most of the features, ideally all of them. So everything above that is just enhancement for a website. Yeah, so you deliver everything to ideally every user, also those that don't have JavaScript enabled or even not available. And for those that have these, they can get all these cool features. Say, for example, a slider should be rendered if there's JavaScript. And if there's none, it shouldn't disappear. But the images are there with a bit of styling, but you can't slide if it's only JavaScript possible. But now we have CSS and so on. So that might not be the best example, but you get the gist. Same for like modals and so on. And it's ideal for these traditional server-rendered applications because they don't need JavaScript to work. So how can we apply progressive enhancement? How can we make things interactive, progressively enhancing applications that exist already? So what can we use? And now we might think, well, why not use Vue? Yeah, fair enough, you can do that. But there are a few downsides. So the first one is, you need a build step. You need to set up all that long tool chain. I'm pretty sure you've all done that, or well, with Vuejs, for example, it's a pleasure, but if you have like a server-end application, it's not that easy oftentimes. And then you also have these 22.5 kilobytes. It's like, okay, yeah, I had an image of like 2 megabyte. I don't care about 25 or 22.5 kilobyte. Well, that's another problem, actually. But yeah, and also Vue is tree shakeable. So size is a thing, but it's not that big of a deal. The other thing is like, maybe it's too powerful. If I just want to render like and make a hamburger menu interactive, do I really need to pull in Vue 3? You don't. And there's a rule called rule of least power that basically says use whatever computer or tool for the job that has the least capabilities but is able to do that. Because otherwise it's like overkill. And of course, like again, if you have people that are like not in the modern JavaScript world, coming from maybe older technologies, yeah, Vue 3 it's nice to learn. Documentation is amazing. So props to all people contributing to documentation. But still, it's a lot. Like I'm giving workshops, and I taught data scientists recently from like 0 that this is the web to Vue. Jesus, I didn't know where to start. So yeah, and then, okay, build step. Why not using Vue with a CDN? We don't have any build step there, right? Big brain move. But we have another 13 kilobyte additionally because we have to pull in the runtime template compiler. So yeah, not ideal. Plus, we can't reuse the DOM. That works if you have like server-side rendering with, for example, Next.js. But if you don't have that, like if it's a PHP or Python or whatsoever rendered application, then you have to throw away the DOM. You can't reuse that really. And this is a performance-critical topic because it's all time. The template will be compiled in the client. Not ideal. So yeah, and of course, rule of least power and the whole learning topic is still a thing. OK, any other guesses? How about vanilla JavaScript? We all know that. Cool. So going back to the example with the hamburger menu. That sounds feasible, right? Yeah, we don't have any extra files to transfer. We can maybe even inline it. It's cool. We only have the files with the business logic. Nice. Or like the interaction logic. Cool. No extra files. No offset of kilobytes. But for tiny bits of reactivity or interactivity, it's super cool. As I said, like a hamburger menu is a very, very good example. You don't need many lines of JavaScript to do that. So yeah, but at some point, it might get hard to maintain. If you have lots of interactive things going on, you might want to reuse things, and the DOM API is not really declarative. So good for tiny parts, but there must be something between vanilla JavaScript and Vue. And now I think that's it. We go to, oh, one sec. Short code example. Like this is a to-do list with JavaScript. I added it because you don't have to read the code. It's just like 42 lines to just add some to-dos in here based on the input. Not ideal. And now we go from what's between JavaScript, Vue? Of course it is jQuery. No, man, no. Whoever starts modern projects nowadays with jQuery, I would suggest not to. We know the reasons. I don't, like jQuery is really awesome back in the days where like browsers had their own APIs. But if you start a project and pick jQuery, not sure if that's the best idea. Don't be like Jason. Don't pick jQuery. So what should we use? OK, like lots of, don't do this, don't do this. You can do whatever you want, right? But just give suggestions. So what should we use instead? And the answer, I mean, you know the talk title, right? It's petite-vue. So petite-vue has been released roughly a year ago. It has been created by no other than Evan Yu, you know him, right? As a side project to play with Vite, TypeScript, and so on. And it's a minimal subset of Vue.js. It's like roughly 6 kilobytes. So huge difference. And the good thing is it keeps the best parts of Vue, which is like Vue-like syntax for like the HTML and templates, and then reactivity, because we all love reactivity, right? So on the downside, of course, not all features are included. But because we don't write an SPA, we don't need all the features. So that's fair. And it doesn't have any virtual DOM, because it will just walk the existing HTML, more or less like v1. Who remembers v1? Who used v1? Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. OK, like roughly 10 people. Respect. And similar to Vue, you can mount it to specific areas of a page. So let's just go from a Vue single file component to the little sister, because it's petite-vue with an E. I'm not speaking French, but I heard that it's like female form, you know? OK, take our after Vue, and we have basically a script setup. You are familiar with that. we have like just a simple counter. Okay. So what we do first is we take the template, so everything inside the template tag, and just move it over to the HTML file. Not a big deal, right? And then we just add the vscope directive, which will contain our reactive state or data. In this case, just count 0. There is no ref or no computed, so we have to rely on view reactive. Okay. So it looks like that, and then we have to import petite-vue. That's it. So this would be like the full example, and just because, well, why not? I will just copy-paste that here and go one step further. That's a code bin. It's nothing in here except Tailwind style, so it's black and you don't get like, oh, lights! So we just paste it in here. Oh, no. Oh, light. OK, here we go. And then we have an increment button, and we click on that, and it counts. And it's like, I don't know, if we remove the empty spaces, it's like 8 lines of code. Can there be something easier than that? I doubt it. OK, so it works. But that's not all. When we import petite-vue, you see that in it, over here, that looks a bit weird, right? It's not like classic attribute like defer. We basically said, like, OK, petite-vue should initialize itself. We don't say them, oh, mount to the counter ID div, whatsoever, or app ID div. No, just say initialize automatically. We don't want to deal with that. And then in template, we have the vscope, and all the data from vscope will be accessible to descendant elements. And as you've seen, mustache syntax, so string interpolation or variable interpolation, and the event handlers, they still work, because that's petite-vue. OK. But of course, there's more. Like, OK, everybody can build a simple counter, and we will build more simple counters during this presentation. But I promise you, at the end, there will be something really fun. At first, you can say, well, automatically initializing, I don't know. So in this case, you can just import it and then write in the script and just say, hey, look, I want to create the application, and just call mount in the end. So this works the same. And because Vue is modern, we also have an ES build for that. Yay. So we can basically import it from the same URL with type module and import, and just say !module, and we have full ESM support here. OK, nice. So auto-init is possible, but we don't necessarily need to. Then mounting to specific elements, I already mentioned that. That works fine, because we don't want all of our application reactive, because then it would be like a single-page application. Yeah, well, we don't want to build that today. So we can say, look, we just give the vscope not to the full page, but just to single elements. And then also say, maybe, OK, ID counter. There we go. And we mount it in line 17 to #counter, which is the selector for this div. Nice. So it works similar to Vue.js. And again, the good part is other parts of the DOM, they're not touched. So in here, we have this count interpolation. It won't be rendered, as it says in text, actually. OK. And then we have create app. And create app is important because it contains like our root scope, our root data. So another example, we import it again through ESM here. And then we have create app here. And in create app, we basically pass the state again. So you see in there, there's count 0. That's reactive by default. And we even have a method. And all the data in create app will be available to every single div or element that has the vscope and all their descendants. And methods work like options API. It really looks Vue-ish, right? OK. So we have this, we have to use that script setup. Not that easy. And now it's about computer properties. And computer properties is so nice, like changing things based on reactivity, but they don't exist in petite-vue. They're not there. But we can just use a getter function. So that's the magic behind it. So yeah, it's a longer example, but I'll showcase you here. We have the digit sum. In Germany, that's called Quersumme, altogether. Quersumme. Very good. So, so we have the digit sum get function, and we just say, OK, give me the counter string, because we want to take every digit, then split it, get every digit separately, and then we have this sum reduce function that will just add it all up. And of course, because you might not believe me, or you maybe do, but I will showcase this anyway, is I'll paste that in here, and let's just increment. And it works, but the proof is in the pudding. Now it says 1 because 1 plus 0 is 1. And now it says 2, so that works fine. Cool. Get a function instead of computer properties, easy than that. I don't know. It's like, it feels very, very simple. And then lifecycle hooks. Oh yeah, big thing for Vue. Like, can anyone name all the lifecycle hooks in Vue 3? Like every single one? Oh yeah, there are. Okay, yeah, good point. Yeah, okay, very good. But there are only 2 in petite-vue, because components are very stripped down. We'll take a look at that. So there are only 2, and these are basically mounted, at Vue mounted, and at Vue unmounted. And yeah, you can pass them to basically every HTML element that might get mounted or unmounted, and it will trigger. And you can do whatever you want, like animations triggering, or it's up to you. So that can be really useful. And you have this $EL, which basically accesses the element that has been mounted or unmounted, so you can, again, do whatever you want with it. Cool, OK. Lifecycle hooks, check. What else? The effect. Every app needs side effects, yeah? Like working with dates, randomization, or maybe something like, I don't know, APIs, getting data. So yeah, and you can trigger these side effects based on reactive values. So you can use the effect. And this will be a very long example. Again, I will showcase this and go more or less line by line. But the idea is we have an input field, in a second at least. We have an input field. And in there, we just enter a number. So again, just paste it directly from the slides. Oh, that tiny thing here. OK, here we go. All right, so we have an input here with vModel. You know that from Vue, it works seamlessly. And then we have the username here. And in create app, we have our input that's hooked up with the input field. We have the user, that's empty object so far, and then we have get data. The most important part, though, is above here. We say the effect get data. So whenever the input changes here, this function will be executed. Cool. So we will just try that and go for 1. We get a name. And I don't fake this. We get 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's it. There are only 10 for the JSON placeholder API. But that's a way so you can react to changes and yeah, basically execute side effects, call APIs, whatever you want. Great. So check. And now we go for components. I already mentioned they're components, right? So there is a way. I have rarely used them, but they're still very useful in some situations. And components are just functions in the case of petite-vue. And they are similar to like create app, just returning states and stuff. But they can take props. And one example here again. We have a function called numberList, and it can take props. And we just say, OK, let's copy the number props over. Then you have like a computer property that doesn't exist, so getter, just saying, OK, get the minimum of the numbers. And then we can also add numbers. So right, OK, we just define logic here, right? And then we can say in our template, cool, I use vscope again, and then I just pass the component name with the props. And the thing is, this looks pretty nice, right? This is awesome. But somehow, well, I have to write the template again and again. It doesn't feel very comfortable. So is there a way? Of course there is. What about component templates? The answer is the template tag to the rescue. Native HTML elements, yay. So instead of this, we can just say, here, add a template tag, give it an ID, for example, here, numberList template, write the template, and then just pass it to the magic $template option in the return function of your component, on the function of your component, returning that, and it will simply match. So you basically have some kind of single file components in your HTML. OK. And then you can just use whatever tag you want, like div, or an appropriate one that's semantic to render your components. Limitations, they're there, right? I already mentioned no render functions because no DOM, no VDOM. There's a DOM, but no VDOM. Teleport, suspends, other SPA features because we don't build an SPA, so we don't need them. No transitions, that's a minor downside, but that could be a plugin in theory, so maybe if someone is interested, someone could write a plugin for that. Open source is amazing. No ref, no computed, and there's no CSP save build if that's relevant, but there's a fork for that. And there's one more thing. Some of you might think like, there's a framework with mountains, that's amazing, and it's not Nux, but it's Alpine.js. And like, take a look at the code over there in petite-vue, and now take a look to the right. take a deep breath. You might think, wait a second. That looks kind of similar. But yeah, there's a relation between Alpine.js and petite-vue. Alpine is also a lightweight JavaScript framework and was inspired by Vue and uses Vue reactivity under the hood. Cool, right? So Vue inspired Alpine, and petite-vue was inspired by Alpine. So full circle. And the idea basically is there's some difference. It's not the same framework, right? So the idea was, at first, there should be a more minimal version of Alpine.js. So Alpine has more features, like transition system, for example. And Alpine has its own ecosystem. Petite-vue, on the other hand, though, is thought as being part of the Vue ecosystem. So like whatever direction Alpine is steering, petite-vue will always try to stay Vue compatible. And that means also an easier migration later on. If you really need to build like a full single-page applications, you can more or less just copy these things over, and they're almost single-file components. That's a huge benefit. So before we go into the fun part, my decision tree, personal decision tree, when building applications or when like telling people what they maybe should do and then won't do, is that. We have an app. If it's a greenfield project and if it's reasonable, I go for Next. Well, it's obvious. And then if I only need tiny pieces of interactivity, though, then the JavaScript, right? If they're like server-end application, for example, tiny bits of interactivity, then the JavaScript. Nice. If the project might have a framework already, keep it, usually. If it's modern, like if it's not jQuery, keep it. And then if it needs advanced features, use like Vue or petite-vue. All right. Live coding. People ask me to do this, so I will do this. Close this one, and we don't want to save this. Here we go. Live coding before party. And this will be fun. So, because I have no notes, I will now pull up my phone and take a look. OK, we have basically nothing besides this h1 and a few starting things. And that's h1 is also gone now. Cool. OK, so what are we doing? We want, let's say, we want a button. So there we go. And we want to say that button should have click me. Very creative. On me. OK. And this button, on click, it should do something. Because, well, that's what buttons usually do. And also, we have an image. We have an image, which is just a placeholder now. Because spoiling the fun is not so funny. So we say source here. And very important, don't forget the alt tag. Very important here, placeholder. Oops, placeholder. Accessibility is important, folks. Yeah, I heard Vue. That's cool. Yeah, accessibility is very important. OK, so good. So far, so good. What do we want to do now? Well, on click, we want to show the image. So we do like, and maybe also hide the button. We just need one. So we say, if are you ready to party with a capital P. And the image will show the else. We also give it some classes. Like here, we just say hScreen because we want to have the full place of screen. Ah, there we go. Perfect. And what you also want to do, if we are at are you ready to party, we'll just say, look, we add this to petite-vue. So in here, we just say, are you ready to party? False. OK. And then we will continue. We have the alt tag, perfect. We will just give some more classes to the button. So the button should be nice, so we just give it a border, px4, py3, and a bigger text, because it's so tiny right now. And what we always also want to do is we want to give the cloak to the image, because whenever something is not ready, so petite-vue is not rendered yet, we can just say, look, like Vue with vcloak, display none. Here we go. OK. So far, so good. Are you ready to party? But we say, if you're not ready to party, show the button. And if you're ready to party, show the image. Cool. We're super close. So on click, the method. What we want to do is we want to say, whenever, why is it not? Oh, yeah, of course, semicolons. These are always tricky if you have no real IDE. So we say this dot are you ready to party? I'm pretty sure you are. For capital P still is true. And then we say this dot play sound. Oh, we don't have sound yet, so let's say play sound. OK. And this is very important. We create a sound, say const audio is new audio, and we'll pass in a link in a second. We say audio.current-time because we want to skip the boring start. So to 43, we can also do 42 because it's a nice number, but we'll stick with 43. Audio.play. I appreciate the laughs, thanks. And then we get the cool GIF. It's not GIF, it's GIF, by the way. Yeah. Put it in here. And I dare you to show now. Oh, vclog works, and the sound. So the sound will be in new audio. Oh, no, string. So, just checking. That looks good, that looks good. Are you ready to party? OK. If it works, it will be awesome, and if not, we'll figure things out. Yeah, that's it. Thanks, thanks. Just have to think a bit more often. No. Anybody finds a mistake? Line 20? Line 20? Oh, no. Oh, no. Thanks, folks. Thanks a lot. Again, are you ready to party? Yeah. You got rickrolled. OK, conclusion, because we're really ready to party now. Not all projects are SPAs, and some really don't have to. Use the appropriate tools and tool belt, and you now know that petite-vue is one of them, and petite-vue and progressive enhancement are a perfect match. It's part of the Vue ecosystem. It's easier to migrate to full Vue if you need it sometime, and we all love Vue. Thanks for your attention. I was Alex, and thanks a lot to my sponsors on GitHub. I appreciate all of you. Enjoy the after party.